You very much for the invitation and lovely to see everybody here today. I have been mostly in listening mode to this panel, and it's been a fascinating panel. Thank you very much. But mostly because the events that most involved in will come after many of the events for which these other panelists are responsible or engaged. And maybe I can say a couple of words in a moment about how the events that I am most involved in will build on 2023. But I thought I would like to pick up first on a couple of the points that previous panelists made that I think really point to why we need, in addition to all of these summits and events, a summit of the future in 2024, which is what I will speak to. One panelist or several panelists actually mentioned that we can't continue to look at these issues in silos. We need to kind of integrate them, and we need to integrate the financing for delivering them. And yet, of course, the truth is, as some of these summits show, we still are making most of our decisions about these issues in separate silos. Jeff Sachs talked about the fact that it's time for fundamental social transformation, and that is transformation that takes time, but that we need pathways towards that transformation. Tony Shea very rightly talked about the fact that we need to be much more conscious of, but also building resilience to catastrophic risks. And we're seeing more and more around the world those risks becoming a daily reality for many people, and that we lack strong governance in some of the areas where the biggest risks are going to come from, whether those are biological or technological. Philip and his very moving and scary reference to 60 harvests reminded us of how the decisions we're making today are robbing us and future generations of that very future. The fact that the way we feed ourselves today will stop us feeding ourselves in the future is a horrifying thought, obviously, and something that we need to tackle very seriously. Many of the panelists mentioned the fact that financing is not sufficient and it's not flowing in the right ways, and that the global financial architecture is not risk informed and not delivering. And our last speaker, Ambassador Khan, talked about the fact that we're just not on track for the SDGs and not on track to deliver on these many commitments we've already made. So this is where the Summit of the Future tries to come in, building on the report of the Secretary General on our common agenda, which really tried to kind of give all of those messages as well, and essentially to say, we're not on track for the SDGs. We're not on track to deliver the Paris Agreement. We're not on track for Addis. But we're also dealing with new gaps in global governance and new risks that have emerged since 2015 that aren't catered for in some of those commitments and agreements. And we need to do two things. We need to turbocharge and accelerate delivery of existing commitments, and we need to fill the gaps where there are issues that are either undergoverned and undermanaged or not managed at all. And the Summit of the Future is trying to do both of those things. So it's trying to address the how, while all of the summits in 2023 look at the what and how we need to do more of the what. We will be looking at the how, the governance of all of these issues, but also turbocharging, lifting, and galvanizing, to use Ambassador Khan's words, delivery of those commitments. The Summit of the Future will include approximately 10 or so tracks. Member states are still deciding how exactly they want to take all of the ideas that we put on the table forward. And there will be a ministerial meeting in September 2023 that will kind of determine the scope of the summit in 2024, and that hopefully will build on the other summits that are happening this year and maybe absorb some of the outcomes of those summits and meetings, and take what needs to be taken forward to the summit in 2024. The suggestions that the Secretary General has made for the summit of the 2024, where he's trying very hard, as I said, to make sure that we're proposing the issues on which there are big governance gaps, include such things as how to act and think for future generations, how to be much better at managing complex global shocks that go beyond any existing part of the international architecture to solve, how to much more meaningfully help young people engage in global decision making, how to measure and value our own human progress differently, getting beyond just GDP as a metric, how to really reform the international financial architecture so that it is risk informed and does deliver in exactly the ways our previous panelists discussed, how to absorb and deal with the digital commons and all of the ways in which technology has transformed our lives, both for better and for worse, how to deal with the outer space as a global commons that is newly occupied by many actors and has enormous implications for developments here on Earth and how sustainable development and equality are pursued. and how the peace and security landscape in particular has transformed with our very interconnectedness and digitalization and all of the things that we see playing out right now in the world. So the summit will hope to take up many of these issues and to deliver a pact for the future that will really overhaul and revamp multilateralism so that it's more networked, more effective and more inclusive, and really helps us deliver solutions for the problems of today, but also the problems of tomorrow. I'll stop there, but I look very much forward to hearing thoughts from the remainder of this session and to building on the important work that all of the panelists today that spoke are doing to kind of set the stage for the Summit of the Future in 2024. Thank you so much.